Welcome back to CFP Enthusiasts, y'all. My name is Jimmy, and as y'all can see, it is just me, myself, and I this week. Pat and Jacob have conflicting schedules at the moment, so it's just going to be me for now. Sorry we missed last week. That will not happen again. That won't happen for the rest of the season. I will make sure, my schedule's a lot better now. I'll make sure that the videos and the podcast is more consistent moving forward, and then we're gonna build on top of that. So I'm excited for what the future holds as far as this goes. This will not stop. College football is a huge passion of mine. I cannot state that enough, and I would love nothing more than to continue it. And then hopefully I'll get Pat and Jacob back on as soon as we can. But if y'all are watching this, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Share this to a friend who watches college football, who's passionate about college football, because that's what we do here. We bleed college football, and I want y'all to be a part of the crew we're building over here at CFP Enthusiasts. Share this to a friend, and then also follow the Instagram page CFP Enthusiasts, same name, and that'd be much appreciated. Otherwise, today we're going to talk about, just the Week 11 edition. We're going to recap last week, so we're going to talk about what my takeaways from last week, 3 takeaways I have, and then we're going to go and I'm going to give y'all my reaction on the college football playoff ranking, the Week 1 ranking, so to speak. I'll tell y'all the good, the bad, the ugly about the rankings, in my opinion, and then we're going to preview this week's biggest games of the week, and it's heating up, man. It's November. Woo! The 12-team playoff means, more teams have the opportunity to make the playoffs deep into the regular season. These games mean a lot more for more teams now, and it's just been great to see. All right, so my biggest takeaways from last week's games. The first thing I'll talk about is same old Penn State. Same old Penn State. I did actually, we didn't do the preview show, but I did pick Penn State to win this game against Ohio State just because I thought Penn State's offense, first of all, were more equipped to take on a physical and really talented Ohio State defense. Andy Kolonicki coming in from Kansas was a little more innovative than what they were having beforehand. And I thought that would do dividends for them in games like this, because these are the games where they're struggling, right? They struggle to score in these games. They have no problem against anyone else. They haven't lost to anyone else over the past 2 years or whatever, other than Ohio State and Michigan. And what's been the problem? They just can't keep up offensively. And I thought, the offensive scheme was a lot better. You can see it. You can see the eye test. It's been a lot better this year. However, in Ohio State game, same old stuff. It might just be the type of players they're recruiting. They just can't match up with Ohio State's athletes and Michigan's athletes over the past 2 years. They just were outmatched on the offensive side of the ball. Now, defensively, I thought that they'd wreak havoc on Ohio State's offensive line, which is patched up and bruised and have been playing poorly, actually, for the better part of this season due to injury, and then guys just not meshing as well as, they would have thought. I thought Abdul Carter and all those guys, that front seven for Penn State is really talented, and I thought they would be able to wreak more havoc than they were able to do. Now, shout out to Ohio State for putting it together a great game plan. They were able to run the ball. A reason why I picked Penn State is because Ohio State's having trouble running the ball as well, and that would have put more pressure on Will Howard. Will Howard going into Happy Valley. I know he's from Pennsylvania, but that's a lot. 110,000 is how many they have, something like that. Just fans just on top of you. But shout out to Ohio State. They did their thing. I wasn't expecting that really from them. Penn State, same old. Ceiling 11-1. Floor 10-2, and they'll probably be out of the second round of the playoffs. Let's just be honest. Next thing, Oregon is separating themselves from the rest of the country. They had their struggles. They had really bad struggles early in the season. The first 2 weeks, they looked like one of the worst top 10 teams, like the preseason top 10 teams, the early top 10 teams, along with Michigan. They looked pretty bad over the first 2 weeks. Gave up 7 sacks in the first 2 weeks. They haven't even given up 7 sacks in the other 7 games that they've played since then. So they've really improved there. And that's the biggest thing. They've improved. Now, I'm not saying that Oregon hasn't had a struggle, because, like I said, they have. Ohio State's had their struggles. Texas has had their struggles. Georgia's had their struggles. Miami's had their struggles. Everyone, you can kind of pinpoint where they're most vulnerable at. But one thing about Oregon is that they're peaking right now. All these other teams have had struggles recently in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Oregon hasn't had a struggle since week 2. Now, the Ohio State game was close, and that's, obviously, that type of game is going to be close. But I'm talking about against inferior competition, where it's like, oh, what's wrong with the offensive line in this game? Oh, they can't really run the ball. Or, oh, they're giving up a lot of points. They're hearing that type of stuff from a Miami, who's giving up a lot of points. They're hearing these things about Texas and Quinn Ewers kind of struggling. What's going on with him? You hear this thing about Ohio State's offensive line. What's going on? They can't run the ball. Oregon, you haven't heard anything about them as far as criticism's concerned, and rightfully so. They've been rolling the teams they've been playing, and I expect that to keep on. They have Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington. Wisconsin still looks like a tricky game. I did pick Oregon to lose that game in the preseason. It looks like an easier game earlier in the season when Wisconsin didn't look that good. Now Wisconsin looks a lot better. They have to be careful here on the road to Wisconsin here in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Other than that, I think they should be fine. The third takeaway from last week is that I said it at the top. The games now matter way more in December than in previous years since the playoff has been in play, right? Now, when the 12-team playoff was announced and, we already knew, it was coming into form, I was under the impression, man, these games won't even matter. Okay, if Ohio State and Michigan play on the last day of the regular season, it doesn't matter who wins if they're both 11-0 or whatever, because they're going to face each other again in the Big Ten title game. And that's going to be the game that really matters, because whoever wins that game is going to get a bye and whatnot. But the no divisions thing makes it a lot more complicated. You can't dodge your way to an easy schedule unless you get a good luck of the draw. That happens all the time. But you're going to face 2 to 3 teams that can really get you. You can't dodge. No smoke with these schedules anymore. And now Texas A&M at the end of the regular season is going to be huge. LSU Alabama this week, huge playoff elimination game. Georgia and Ole Miss, it's an elimination game for Ole Miss, and it's pretty much an elimination game for the SEC, making the SEC title game. You still have Iowa State, Kansas State in the Big 12. If it comes down to that last game, one of those teams gets in and plays BYU. It's about to ramp up significantly. Notre Dame and Army, that's playoff implications right there. That's going to be next week, I believe. It's Tennessee and Georgia. That's going to be SEC championship game eliminator. We're going to have a lot of games here, guys, soon that are going to be absolutely huge and shaping this playoff in these last 3-4 weeks, and I'm excited. Now let's talk about the college football playoffs. We had the first rankings of this season. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So the good, there is consistency when it comes to the head-to-head. They have Notre Dame above Texas A&M. They have Texas A&M over LSU. They have LSU over Ole Miss. They have Oregon over Ohio State, Georgia over Texas. List goes on and on. I like the consistency with that. In years past, we haven't seen that with teams with similar records. Now, it's one thing if, for example, let's just say South Carolina was to beat Bama 2 to 3 weeks ago, but South Carolina still has 3 losses and Bama has 2 or 1 loss. Well, I mean, Bama's still going to be ranked ahead of South Carolina, even though South Carolina beat them. Now, these are like comparable teams who have the same amount of losses. There's consistency. I haven't seen that in the past with the college football playoff rankings, but I see that now, and I really like that. And that's going to be a big indicator moving forward and see who gets left out or not. Now, that could save Notre Dame if it comes down to it. That could really save Notre Dame if it comes down to that last spot. They have that win over Texas A&M. Let's see, man. Let's see what happens. That bad. Why is Missouri still ranked? Missouri coming into the season, I'm pretty sure the consensus was they were overrated. We all knew that. That was based off of last year, and I'll get to that point in a minute. But Missouri's ranking was solely based off what they did last year, and I guess they're kind of projecting how they're gonna perform this season. They had an easy schedule. We're like, okay, Missouri's gonna go 10-2, 11-1 at worst. They've played 2 times on the road in SEC play. They've lost a combined total of 80-10, something like that. They lost, 34-0 the other week to Bama. Earlier in the season, 41-10 to A&M. I mean, these games aren't even close. Aren't even out the gate. And then the other games they've played, they've really struggled in. They should have lost to Boston College. They definitely should have lost to Vanderbilt, which that looks like a decent win now, but they definitely should have lost that game. Missouri shouldn't be ranked ahead of Vanderbilt, the team I just mentioned. They beat them by 3. But Vanderbilt, correct me if I'm wrong, beat Alabama, the same team that beat Missouri 34-0. I'm just saying. South Carolina, I think, should be ranked ahead of. I thought South Carolina and Vandy should have been ranked, but South Carolina, I think, should be ahead of Missouri. They lost to that same Alabama team by 1 play. But guess what? That same South Carolina team beat the brakes off of A&M last week. That A&M team beat the brakes off of Missouri. Now, I know South Carolina and Vandy have 1 more loss than Mizzou, but eye test and the common opponents? Oh, come on now. Now, I'm not complaining too much about it just because none of these teams are going to make the playoffs. It's not like terrible, but it's still pretty bad. I don't think Missouri should be ranked. And I think Army's too low as well. 25, I think, is a little bit too low. Now, let's go to the ugly. I think this is where a lot of people have been complaining. BYU and Indiana specifically, I think, are rated lower than they should be. I'll start with BYU. They're number 9. They beat SMU back in September when neither of these teams were on any of our radars. They beat SMU, and they beat the brakes off of Kansas State. Remember that night game? They just were scoring. They're probably still scoring right now in Provo. They're 9-0. Their eye test is pretty good. The game control is pretty good. But they're 9. They're behind Tennessee, whose eye test, Tennessee's eye test? Man, I done failed that eye test. I mean, they done failed that eye test, if you ask me. They failed that eye test. Penn State, okay, maybe. But, I mean, BYU's an undefeated Power 4 team right now. I mean, I think this should be a little bit higher. Where it's more egregious is with Indiana, I think. I think Indiana should actually be a little bit higher. Now, BYU's resume is better than Indiana's, but Indiana has the best eye test in the country, according to me. Indiana being ranked 8 is a byproduct of the preseason AP poll. Simple as that. If you don't rank any of the teams in the preseason and you wait to week 3 or 4 to start ranking these teams, off the little sample size you had in the first couple weeks and going from there, Indiana is easily top 4. Top 3, maybe. Hell, you have a case to put Indiana at 2. Take Indiana's their logo off their helmet, take the name off of their chest plate, and insert Ohio State, insert Michigan, insert Texas, insert Alabama, and they're beating teams by a point differential of 32 points per game. They're going to be number 2, number 1. Last year, Georgia and Michigan had worse strength of schedules than Indiana. They're ranked number 2 and number 3. Now, people are going to complain about Indiana's schedule. Oh, it's weak, it's soft, they haven't beat anybody. Well, damn, it's a lose-lose situation, because if you play a weak schedule and you lose to somebody, you suck, you're overrated, you're not as good as we thought. But you beat the brakes off of everybody by 30 plus. Oh, you're overrated, you're playing trash teams. You can't ever win. You can't ever win when it comes to the soft schedule argument. But you have these other teams out here who are above Indiana that have been struggling with mediocre to bad teams. Miami, eye test, not good. Tennessee's eye test, not good. Texas' eye test is pretty good. It's shaky. Hell, Georgia's eye test is went down to the wire with Florida last week. Even when DJ Lightweight went out, they would have lost, by the way, if Lightweight was playing the whole game. But that's neither here nor there. With Indiana, why this is so egregious for me is that their margin of error, it seems like it's going to be really, really small. If they lose a game, even if it's a close game to Ohio State here in 2 weeks, are they going to be on the outside looking in on the playoffs? Or are they just going to be ranked super low? They're going to be ranked below some 2-loss teams, man. Even if they have their 1 loss, they're going to be ranked below some 2-loss teams. Now, I know all schedules aren't created equal, but damn, it just sucks for Indiana. Because it's one thing if you're 9-0 and your eye test is shaky, okay. But they're beating the brakes off of everybody. And it kind of sucks for them to go through that. Okay. Predictions for this week. And then we'll wrap it up. Georgia at Ole Miss. This is going to be a really good matchup, man. I think Carson Beck's going to need to have a really good game. If he has a game where he throws 2-3 picks again, they're going to lose. I don't think he's going to do that, but I will say, man, Ole Miss's defense is no joke. I don't care who they've played. They're number 1 in tackles for loss. They're second in the country in sacks with 41. Their D-line controls every single game that they play. They wreak havoc. And guess where Carson Beck struggles? When there's pressure on him. When he has to make decisions. When the timing is disrupted. Pick. That's going to be the game right there. That's going to be the deciding factor in the game. I think Georgia's going to need Trevor Etienne. Even if he's going to be out, or even if it's going to be out there for Georgia, it's going to be shaky just because their run game has not been what it normally is for Georgia standards. They're going to need him, though, to change of pace, take the pressure off of Beck. Beck just cannot throw these interceptions. He can't. But I think on the flip side, Georgia's defense can do enough to hold Jackson Dart in that offense that's picking up steam again after a shaky couple of weeks on offense. You know, they started the season really hot, had a couple of weeks there recently, and you know, now they're getting back their stride. They scored 63 or whatever it was against Arkansas last week. Dart went for 4 something and 5 touchdowns, something crazy. I think Georgia's defense has enough to stop them. Give me Georgia 27-20. Colorado at Texas Tech. Colorado's 20th. They're second in the Big 12, only behind Iowa State. I mean, they're behind BYU, but they're tied with Iowa State, and they would have to win out, obviously, and then Iowa State and Kansas State play each other. That's going to be an interesting game at the tail end of the regular season. Colorado's legit good now. It is kind of crazy to say that, because even in the beginning of the season when they lost to Nebraska and it looked like the same old Colorado, they've improved, man. They've been one of the most improved. You know, I talked about Oregon earlier, about probably the most improved team. Colorado's up there from the beginning of the season up till now. One of the most improved teams on both lines of scrimmages, where those been areas they've really struggled in over the past year and a half. They're starting to pick up steam. They're really putting Shedeur Sanders in a favorable spot. He's got sacked only twice in the last 2 weeks. Now the sacks number can go up still if you have a really good defensive game plan. Texas Tech, however, is not good defensively. They have the second worst pass defense in the country. And what is Colorado going to do? They're going to pass the ball. That plays right into Colorado's hands. Now, if they can get some sacks on Shedeur, they can really do some damage. I do want to see how Tosh Brooks affects the game, though. I want to see if they were able to stop the run again. They really stifled R.J. Harvey when they played UCF a month ago, which that really surprised me. But I think Colorado could get the job done. Give me Colorado 38-28. Biggest game of the day, Alabama at LSU. Playoff elimination game, baby. I'm here for it. Prime time in Death Valley, Bama, LSU. Couldn't ask for anything more. It kind of feels weird that one of these teams is going to get eliminated already, and it's going to be huge disappointment for whichever team that loses. You're out of a 12-team playoff, and you're Alabama? That does not sound good. You're out of a 12-team playoff, and you're LSU? Not good. It's going to be a good one, man. I don't even know where to start with this one. I think Bama, they played their best game last week against Missouri, or the week before against Missouri, 34-0. The thing about Bama with me, it's not even that they're undisciplined. Is that, for me, it's that they don't play complementary football. And it's kind of frustrating to watch. Obviously, I'm not an Alabama fan, but it's just frustrating to watch as a football fan in general. They don't play complementary football. It's like the offense is playing well, but they're in a shootout, or the defense is playing well and it's like a grind out game. It's like neither, I don't know. The other side of the ball never helps out the offense, never helps out the defense. The defense never helps out the offense. It's just kind of weird. They're never both clicking at the same time up until the Missouri game. That was a lot different, and that's pretty encouraging. Heading into the bye week, you can build off of those things and come out. Now, granted, Missouri's not very good. Brady Cook was hurt, but I think they have a lot to build off of that game. They got a lot of pressure on them. They haven't gotten too much pressure this year, as far as the sack total at least. I think their secondary can be had for sure. Now that's where I think Nussmeier can go crazy. With Kyron Lacey and Anderson and all those guys, yeah, they can do their thing there. I think they need to stay balanced with the running game with Williams and other guy, I'm blanking on his name, but they're going to need to stay balanced, but they can definitely have Alabama in the pass defense. They can have them for sure. It's going to be key for Bama to get pressure on Nussmeier. He can be turnover prone. He has 9 picks this season, so I think he can be had. On the flip side of things, Bama, it's weird. They can't really run the ball from the quarterback, other than the quarterback position. With the running backs, it's been shaky at best with the run game. And when they can't run the ball, it looks really bad on. They look really bad on offense. I'm not gonna lie, it looks bad. I think that Milroe does have to improve as far as he's just relying on Williams. He's been going to the other guy for Bama, number 5. I'm blanking on his name. He's been going to him a little bit more, since that Tennessee game. Okay, maybe building on something there. But Milroe is going to have to definitely make plays with his arm in this game in order to win. LSU's an improved defensive team, but it's gonna be a battle, man. This is a toss-up for me. I think Bama wins 34-31. Yeah, and I think that effectively eliminates LSU from playoff contention. My upset of the week, there weren't really too many good ones that I think I could choose from, but I will go ahead and pull it, man. I'll pick Georgia Tech to beat Miami at home as an 11-point underdog. Now, I'm not confident in this at all. I mean, obviously, it's an upset pick. It's a underdog pick. So more than likely, it's not going to happen, and it's a long shot. That's why we pick it, for fun's sake, right? Miami doesn't look too good. Georgia Tech is one of those teams where they're not overly explosive, but they can be really physical, and that can neutralize a highly explosive offense or a highly explosive team with a bunch of athletes and stuff. If you can be physical and muck the game up and make it ugly and do all those things in the trenches, I think you can definitely hang in there. Now, no matter how good or bad you think Georgia Tech's offense is, they're going to put up points against. They're going to put up points against Miami. Miami's going to put up points against anybody they play. It doesn't matter who it is this season. But I think that Georgia Tech can keep it ugly enough and hang in there enough to where they can probably pull off an upset. So give me Georgia Tech winning in that game. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of CFP Enthusiasts, y'all. Sorry, I'm watching the game back and forth. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know who y'all think are going to win the games. We have Bama versus LSU. We have Colorado and Texas Tech. We have Georgia and Ole Miss. Who y'all think is going to win out of those teams? Let me know what y'all think about the college football playoff rankings, the initial rankings for the 2024 season. And then, yeah, man, I'll ask from y'all is to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us on Instagram as well. Same name, CFB Enthusiast. Show us some love. Share this to a friend or family member who loves college football, who's passionate about college football, who bleeds college football, and they'll love the channel. So we'll keep this thing going. Like I said, we'll stay consistent with it. Thank y'all all for tuning in. And this is Jimmy from CFB Enthusiast signing out. Peace.